Hafare and Tirawami. We are here today with the Honorable Governor Ralph de Leon Guerrero Torres so that he may address the people of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands on issues that are being investigated by the House of Representatives JGO Committee. Before we begin, it is important to note that for months, Governor Torres has publicly called for the JGO to meet with him so that he may address their concerns. Since the JGO Chair chose not to meet with Governor Torres, the Governor has decided to request in writing for a list of questions that he may answer. That letter was delivered to the JGO Chair on Monday, November 8th, with a deadline to respond by November 15th, 2021. Today, 2 weeks after the letter was sent, no response has been given by the JGO. Therefore, the Governor has decided to bring his responses to the people. Today's address is regarding the CUC and erroneous billings associated with the Governor's official residence. Today's address is one in a series where he will provide factual historical information in order to set the record straight. Let us begin. Governor, Hafade.
Hafade.
Let me start with this. Can you enlighten us on the CUC charges for power and water consumption relating to your private residence, which is classified as the Governor's official residence?
I think it's important to know the history on how Governor and Lieutenant Governor's resident becomes the state resident. In early 2000, DPW condemned the Governor and Lieutenant Governor's house up at Capitol Hill. So since then, every governor and lieutenant governor would stay at their residence and the government would pay for their utility. That includes water and power. So again, since 2000 administration, the government has paid for every governor and lieutenant governor's resident as a state resident.
Does the government pay for rental for the property or just the utilities?
The government has never paid mortgage on mine, and I'm not sure if that has happened in the past, but I do know that since I got in as a lieutenant and governor, I've paid my mortgage.
There was a foundation for a pig farm area on the land prior to you purchasing it, the land where you now live, which is something that you have stated to the media in the past. Can you clarify the issue regarding the water usage, where the water connection was as part of the general billing?
Well, at 1 month I saw a billing that was extremely high, and so I was concerned about that billing, and I called Gary Camacho, our executive director for CUC, and I called him here to the resident, and I've asked him to please look into it because there's got to be a reason why one has more water and the other billing does not. And so since then I ordered I asked Gary to make sure that we put a separate billing, water meter, and make sure that, again, treat me fair on calculating and making sure that each meter is charged the right way, meaning there's government rate and there's residential rate. So since then, upon my request, they have separated the water meter from the main house and to the other meter.
So now the pig farm has its own meter and your house has its own meter?
Yes, and to be clear, the government has not paid a penny on the private meter that deals with the piggery.
That comes out of your own pocket?
That comes out from the other account, yes.
Okay. Governor, you had previously paid in cash on occasion for your CUC bill, which is something that the JGO committee found that was unusual. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. I was given an ultimatum by CUC. They called me and said, there's a billing of $6,000, and that if you don't pay, they would disconnect. So obviously I don't have the money, and so I asked my loved ones for help, and so I got that money, and I went in and paid for it, and then I get reimbursed after that because CUC, the government was supposed to take care of that account. But since they have not changed the account, I end up paying for that billing itself.
So it's just a paperwork holdup.
It was a paperwork held up, and since then, we've never been in that same situation again.
JGO committee has insinuated that you had received preferential treatment on your power and water bills. Is this true?
Absolutely not. I mean, there's a case in point there that they called me and told me that if I don't pay the $6,000, they would disconnect my power. Just like everybody else, we pay, and I pay too. So no, I don't believe that I have gotten any. In fact, even when I found out that there's a one water meter here, I made sure that we separate the meter for the different accounts and charge it the right way.
And you had asked to not be given preferential treatment, treat you like any other customer.
And in fact, Mr. Gary Camacho testified at the JGO, stating that I personally called him to the resident to make sure that the accountable and the accountability and transparency on the water meter and the utility meter is done right, and that it's calculated and charged the right way. So since then, I've been charged the residential rate versus the government rate. And again, none of the account on the private account has been paid by the government.
Governor, the CUC and water billings added up to $177,278, which has been called unusual and excessive. What do you have to say about these unusual and excessive billings?
That is exactly the month that I called Gary to come here, because when I saw the billing of 16,000 plus, I know that's unusual. You don't just rack up that amount in 1 month. So that's when I called Gary. We fixed the account and made sure that the correct way of charging the private account as a resident over a government account. So since then, it's been up to date and has been addressed accordingly, and we have no issues since then.
Records reflect that there was an account registered to the name of Judy Marie Torres. That's your sister.
That is my sister.
And this was paid in the amount of $36,069 by the CNMI government for power usage during the period of January 2015 and September 2018. Can you tell us more about this? Elaborate.
When I won the lieutenant governor, my sister moved into the Cobbler house prior to that. So her name was on the billing. When I won and I moved in, CUC asked that I had two choices, either to disconnect and have it under my name and then charge again reconnection fee. So the first they charge a disconnection and then connection fee, or just write a letter from my sister authorizing me to use the house under her name with authorization. So we have that in record that she gave me authorization to stay. So since then, I was staying at the house, not my sister. It was me and my kid, my family, and that's when CUC was billing that resident because my sister gave me authorization.
And that the government paid for your stay there,
It was
not her stay.
absolutely, it was my stay, and again, because her name was the account prior to me moving in, is the reason why her name was in the account.
And that is the residents in Cobreville.
That is the resident of Cobreville.
The House JGO committee showed a sample of your CUC bill in the amount of $16,949, which covered March 2019 to April 2019. And Executive Director Camacho said that the total electric charge, according to the bill, is $1,619, and water charges were $15,309. Director Camacho said a total number of kilowatt hours used at your residence was 5,004 kilowatt hours, and the total gallons of water consumed this 1 month was 263,679 gallons. Can you elaborate on these charges and the I mean, that's a lot of water.
That is a lot of water, and I saw that at 16,000. I mean, there's no way we're gonna rack that up, right? So again, that's the same situation again, where I called CUC, make sure that the account is charged the right way, and we addressed that issue. Again, it's the same issue that the government has not paid a penny more than the residential rate, the usage that we use here. So it is excessive, and I saw it, and that's the reason why again I called Gary, Mr. Camacho, to address this issue, and we have. And since then, we have been stable on all the charges every month since then.
Well, these seem to be things that could be easily solved.
Yeah, and again, some of these charges, you just need to make sure that they're charged the right way.
Okay, great. Would you like to address our indigenous community, Governor, in these issues?
Well, first, I want to thank you, Gary. Thank you for your time, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to the community. And so I truly appreciate your time. Buenos días para todos benengku, parentes mañana managtungo dan amigo, dan todos hamzo. Sus masin tempun mizu, zagago hamzo lokwe na unengkungo kimbandokku, za bisplikazi hamzo, ni hafa masu sedi gini gi JGO na investigation. Utugi katta i komiteya November 8. Pero naizu lista ni zunya concern offer na questiona zabi oppisiha. Zonaisha disti pogu taza response gili ni komiteya. Pues ezige na rason na beitogustige za gohu bisplikazi hamzo ni publiko i bandako. Malaguzo kibi filana binatung hamzo i history in ST i government house za ni lieutenant governor's house. Di 2000 nasakkan i DPW akadema i gima i hulog in Capitol Hill i governor's house and i lieutenant governor's house. Makandema. Pues di stage na tempo i gobyerno sa ni segundo na gobyerno manyaga gizunya residence house za i government apapasi izunya mita para i hanum sa ni ikandit. Pues di stage na tempo manonwa esta pogo na tempo. Gi 2015 na ni Malunzo para as segundo na gobyerno sumasaga zu Kobler. Za ani malum i estin na toku termino. Isiusi masangani zo na dos ko option. Uno, puma disconnect i power za ni water sa gagi nani chelu si Judy Mary Torres. Sa nani finani na i gagi gima. Or uma tugi autorisa zo chelu palan babi saga gigima sa goa zan familya ko za ICUC zan ni government paro take care i utility. Pues endigi masusedi. So maga zo zan familya ko gi cobbler taigi chelu palan dan zan goa zan ni familya ko. Pues di stage na tempo jigi ni mapasi i CUC i dokumita gi cobbler. Pues gi espereo na tempo mujung na wapasi $6,000 cash is a billing. Muna rason na guahan yung $6,000 sa maagan zo ni CUC. Zalenya na kumutu wapasi na charge na mes para mautut ikandetu za ni hanum. Pues mano zo za man uadzo familya ko. Zo wapasi na billing. Pues di stage na tempo, edzigi na rason lokwi na ma-reimburse tati sa di magahit i government papasi na mita. Lo mga zo na po ma-disconnect i candidate, pues endigi afa na wapasi na gi cash. Iparo na manera lokwi, waha geno masangan na special treatment u risisibi gili ni CUC. Taza special treatment u risisibi gili ni CUC. Zagin magahin na gwa special treatment, tebi magan sa masanganizo na pumauto di kandit, zagin tuwa pasi, and no i $6,000 para hafa na mita mo na charge. Pis malaguzo binaklaro nagi. I ocho na sunto malaguzo bi patsa pogo edji un mes ni na dongkulo put $16,000 za i mes endigi tatlo gohu mo agan sa Executive Director Gary Komatsu. Zakano fan magi zon atan istigima sa mampus dongkulo no na charge zani hanum neno ikolo gi 270,000 gallons. Dongkulo mampus enigi. Pues enigi na masoda na i water meter unuha gagi gini gigima. Pues di stage ma regla ma pega dos na mita maseperau igima ni sumasaga zan familya ko tani 8 na mita. Di stage na tempo talo ma regla ma charge ni dinansi na account pareho i-government rate versus i-residential rate. Pinaklaro stige taza ni un centimus per hafa i-government ever paid gizoku private account. Talo, inareglas din na problema dari stage na tempo para pogo taza i-government ever paid para izoku private na account. Other than izoku residential, that's considered a government residential na lugar ni sumasagad sa pamilya ko. Pues, talo, malaguzo na pincomprendi na parewa zo zan ocho. Taze special na tratamento uri CCB kilin izota CUC. Parewa na numero wa agan zan afa na okasyon una sisita azudo. Lokwe malaguzo talo unanayam zundong kulis zus masi ni tempun mizu zan isapotasyon mizu zan lokwe unaizo nistene tempo ba explicazi hamzo ni afa mas esedi gini. Pues sin mas malaguzo kibi wis hamzo happy Thanksgiving zan ni familia. Stay safe zan enjoy. Zus masi. Ingiliso.